vocal variety. What do I mean by that? Can somebody just read this sentence?
I don't have a problem with you.
Good. Can somebody read it a different way?
I don't have a problem with you.
Great.
I don't have a problem.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem.
Exactly. So,
I don't have a problem with you.
what's your,
I have no problem with you.
and what's your, is it Chuck? Chuck. Chuck, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The words, the verbal is the same, but the vocal changed, and even your visual changed to change the message. So you can have a lot of variety, but if I always said it the same way when I was talking, and when we get nervous, we tend to flatten out the variety, and we just talk monotone, and we put everybody to sleep. It's just not going to be interesting. The same thing goes here. I could say, that is great. That's great. That's great. Right? All of those changes in tone will change the meaning of what I'm saying. So we need to make sure that when we are talking, that the visual, the vocal, the verbal are saying the message we want. So if you're reading a prayer, if you're reading it up at the ambo and you have the reading, you want to make sure your tone of voice is reflecting the message that you're trying to say. And if there's an important word, you're doing something so the listener knows that that word is important. And so how do we do that? We need to be able to have changes in the pitch of our voice. And Chuck has demonstrated that he's clearly capable of doing that, right, by changing the pitch. But some of us just don't get it, right? It's not natural for us. And so some exercises we can do is practice saying a word and making it a question or making it a statement. And it could be something as similar as taking the word yes and making it a question. So how would you say yes as if it's a question? Yes. Yes? Right. And how would it be, Joy, can you make yes a statement? Yes. Right. So it's yes or yes. But Joy, you can probably exaggerate a little bit more and get more of a glide on it. Like, yes. Okay, so you start higher. Yes. Okay, so it may not be natural for some of you to use all the notes that we use when we talk. Right? Some people speak in a very restricted range. And so practicing like yes, yes, no, no. And some of the international priests I work with will start and it's like yes, yes. It's like they're not any different. And because in their native languages they don't use melody like that. And in English we do, we want to use melody. We don't all do it, but the dynamic speakers have changes in the tone. And remember, not so exaggerated, but enough that you can make something sound like a question and something sound like a statement. Does anybody else want to try? I'm looking. Laura, just look at the no. Can you say it both ways, Laura? No, and then no.
No, no.
Good, but the no coming down, you can start higher because you notice you didn't have enough room to do anything. So try no and no. Right, and again, that's exaggerated, but it starts to give you flexibility in your voice. And if you feel that when you're doing these readings, maybe I'm not dynamic enough, these are great exercises to see, can you say church, church, or later, later. We do use that when we speak, but nobody teaches us how to do it. And so there are some people who just have it, and other people don't. And especially if your native language isn't English, you're just using the pattern that's used in your native language. We have the same sentence here, but each time a different word is stressed in orange. So the first one is, I didn't forget to call you. Could somebody try the second one?
I didn't forget to call you.
Good. Okay, now that was great, but you said it in such an emphatic way that I'm guessing that you're angry at me, because that's how I heard it. I didn't forget to call you, right? So try, I didn't forget to call you.
I didn't forget to call you.
Now, did you notice how that was much friendlier than the first one? So sometimes when we're stressing, we make it louder, like I didn't forget to call you, instead of I didn't forget to call you. That's subtle. Can you hear that difference, though? So many people, and it's interesting, I've worked with people from many different languages, and I'm not sure of the demographics here in West Virginia, but in Baltimore, in the healthcare system, there's a lot of international nurses and aides in the hospitals. And Nigeria is a population where there are a lot of nurses. And their English skills are excellent. They speak English in Nigeria, but their stress pattern is totally different. And when they stress, they make it loud. Like, do you want to take a bath? Instead of, do you want to take a bath? Right? And so people say, those nurses have such an attitude. And I know these nurses because I work with them, and it's like, they don't have an attitude. But American listeners hear it as an attitude because they're just getting loud when they're emphasizing things. And the patients and the family members get upset. And it's completely misconstrued. And as simple, I forgot your first name. I know it was Dubois, but Deb, the first time you said it, because you were trying to stress a word, you stressed too many words without realizing it, and you came across angrier. So think about this when you do your readings. If you're trying to emphasize, and we're going to do this in a little bit with readings, if you're trying to emphasize too much, you start to sound like you're yelling at people. And that's clearly not what you want up there. All right. I didn't have any other ones. Let's just try. Can somebody try, I didn't forget to call you. Does somebody want to try that? I hope you don't think if you try it that I'm picking on you, but I think it's a great way to practice it. Is it, Gloria?
I didn't forget to call you.
Good. Now, what you stressed forget, right? Okay, try to exaggerate it a little bit more, like I didn't forget to call you.
I didn't forget to call you.
That was better. All right. So again, not everybody's using enough pitch change.